the likes of the Speed Cup Series swinging out to Atlanta. You've got the Cyber Thunder Racing League with their Daytona duels of the Cyber 500. And of course, the Beer League is out at another oval track for the first time in 5 seasons at Bristol. But tonight, we get set to duke it out at the biggest, baddest track of them all. Welcome to Talladega and to round number 20 of the High Tide Racing League MF Racing Designs Premier Series. My name is Ola Revel alongside Derek Watson, bringing you all of racing action from start to finish this afternoon. Derek, this race is going to be a wild one. 100 laps around this facility. One of the longest races we have ever called at this racetrack, and definitely the longest race on Green Flag TV at a Superspeedway. And all that means is we're in for a lot of action this afternoon.
A lot of drafting, and a lot of other things we can't foresee. We've been about 500 miles northwest. You and I spent the week at the virtual Daytona International Speedway, hanging out, calling 500s, calling different events. You're returning tomorrow night, in fact, so you're going to make the travel back. I'll be there later this week, but here we are, Talladega, 2.65 miles, the longest oval on the NASCAR calendar, and it's just going to get wild and crazy. Well, speaking of wild and crazy, here's your point situation. Now, there's a couple things to track as of this moment. So top 4 advance after next week. Right now, that's Kilroe, that's Ping, Williams, and Marasco. Now, right now, it's about a 25-point lead from Kilroe down to Marasco. However, due to some stuff that Dalton Kilroe has tonight, his attendance here this evening is in question. He is not yet joined the race. That would throw a big wrench into these points. Now, the other thing is Michael Thorpe Jr. is still not here. Is home, by the way, is healthy. He and I've had a couple conversations, but some more system problems, some more gremlins are creeping in. So if you're Scott Shire, if you're David Lakey, or even Brian Dees, this is going to get interesting because not only is Talladega the great equalizer, your points leader maybe not here, your last place not here. Boy, oh boy, there's some stories to follow.
A lot of stories to follow indeed, and I think the biggest one is going to be the fact that Dalton Kilroe is not going to be present
breaking
this
news.
Afternoon.
Just joined. Sorry, just joined.
Oh, there we go. Holy cow. Wow, no kidding. Just popped in. I just saw him show up on the timing screen. So, Kilroe will make it, but only at the buzzer in this one. So, boy, talk about making it in by the skin of your teeth.
Yeah, so that means he's missed qualifying. He'll start from the back, which is a detriment. Has had no practice time tonight with the league members, or at least probably very little practice time with the league members, so we'll keep an eye. In fact, he did not turn a lap in practice, so we'll see how this goes. Well, this is going to be a very exciting night, Nolan. I'm excited to get this moving in what's going to be an endurance race that we'll talk about as the night goes on.
We'll talk about all of that and more as the night goes along, indeed. Before we get to that, though, we got to get through our opening ceremony, so we'll do that. And then we'll be returning with the starting grid in a few. With that, checker flag will fall on the 10-minute warm session prior to this race, and we'll get set to get racing action back underway once again. Talladega Superspeedway. Derek, it's going to be on a pole position this afternoon for none other than Jaden Hobb, the rookie sensation, making a lot of noise this season. looking to make some more this afternoon. Brian D starts at the number 2 spot alongside Ty Marasco in 3rd with Con Gibson in 4th. Sean Williams and Sikorsky make up row number 3, row 4 with Eddie Hackey and Kevin Foster, and then it is Lakey and Ping to close out the top 10.
Moving back into P11's Jason Greenwell with Carter Phillips on the outside in P12. Then Dawson Guzik and Jonathan Canfield, 13th and 14th. Brian Zimmerman and Benjamin Lacey round out row number 8. And then from there, we'll go back into P19. That's going to be Nick Osipek and Tanner Marr back in 19th and 20th. We're rounded out here. Michael Keithley, Larry Bell, Bob Berry, Paul Southbury, and of course the aforementioned Dalton Kilrow rounds out a 25-car field.
That is all going to take us through now into the main session of this race. 25 cars, out of which only 14 opting to set lap times this afternoon. And I have to say, I don't think either of us are too surprised at that, really. I mean, these types of racetracks, you often don't see everybody putting down lap times, especially if you have every chance of making the field like these guys do.
And it's really a mixed bag, right? Because sometimes when you don't qualify, strategy is you want to sit back there and you want to wait, and you just want to kind of bide your time. You're kind of thinking, hey, there's going to be a wreck or two, I can avoid it from the back, and that's your plan. The problem with the not qualifying system that we face is maybe drivers who didn't qualify who then want to be aggressive, right? They want to get up there and they want to do, or they need to do something, right? Like obviously Dalton Kilrow had some stuff going. He could not qualify, but I'm going to use him as an example. He has to do something about his points right now. Right now, you know, he's 25th. He's likely, if barely hanging on to his points position, you know, to qualify to the top 4, he's going to have to be aggressive. And when you get someone from the back of the field who has to be aggressive or wants to be aggressive, it's just a little scary at the start of the race.
It's always going to be scary right at the start of the race. One thing that you want to talk about as well, of course, the endurance aspect of this race.
Oh my gosh,
right. 100 laps around this facility now. Last season's race here, we had 36 lead changes, and out of the 20 cars in that race, there was only 4 that didn't lead a lap at some point. I don't think that's going to be the same situation this afternoon.
I don't know. I mean, let's talk the details here real quick before we go green. 100 laps, that is more than half of an official NASCAR race. That is more than what we do for what we call NIS, or NASCAR iRacing Series on the service. 100 laps is a heck of a long run. I mean, this is going to be more than 250 miles of racing. This is going to be an endurance. We'll talk about it as the night goes on. We'll see how it affects our drivers as Jaden Hopp gets ready to take the green.
iRacing pace car going to pull down in the pit row, but it is still a very, very long way to get back around to the start-finish line in this one. We are happy that you are joining us for racing action here on a fantastic Monday night into the Geico Restart Zone. Green flags up. It's go, go, go for the setup race in the round of 8.
Both lanes got a pretty decent start, Nolan. In fact, I mean, the bottom lane probably has a 1, maybe a 2-car lead, but they're quickly losing that lead here on the top lane. The bottom lane has more cars, but that momentum is building in the top lane, and Ty Marasco wants to see if he can jump down the lead here before we get to the line. Now, right now, it's just even up, and drivers are just going to have to kind of wait for these engines to wind up all the way.
Brian Dees and Ty Marasco, MFRD teammates. No surprise to see the two of them working together with the Nexus Esports driver down to the inside, being pushed by Sean Williams. Con Gibson thinking about making it 3 up on the top shelf, and that's not going to end up happening. So lap number 1, it's Marasco to lead the way. We're 2 by 2 by 2. However many rows deep you can count just about throughout this field. Started to break apart around 13th on down.
You see right there that Marasco was clear, by the way. Now, the challenge he kind of faces, he has a teammate behind him in Brian Dees. So if they move down, he wants to move down as a team. That means they need to clear the bottom lane by 2 cars. That is a challenge in this draft cycle, to be clear by 2 cars. It may happen at some point, but it takes a little bit more work than just clearing Marasco by himself.
You can still see Connor Gibson as well having a lot of movement back into third place, really trying to get something working with him here. Not going to end up going his way that time by at least. We do have Kevin Foster starting to jump up to the top side, right? Foster seeing what he can do in that number 8 car. Jumped up high, thought about 3 wide. Nobody went with him though. He's forced to tuck back in line now in the 15th place spot with one Brian Zimmerman. Sorry, Austin McGill down to his inside.
You see some big gaps in line both in the top and the bottom, so this will be kind of even up for the front of the field because both have big gaps here. But again, Jaden Hopp doing his best. Just wants to lead every lap. And I mean, Jaden really has come on strong in this league, has he, Nolan? He came in as a late entry. Of course, not playoff eligible. He came in way too late for that. But really has been a dominant force. Now I think if Jaden Hopp comes back for the start of next season when the High Tide Racing League begins again right around, I think, beginning of April-ish, whenever it starts up, Jaden Hopp will be a name to pay attention to because he will be playoff eligible.
And Jaden has said, I mean, he is interested in coming back to the High Tide Racing League. He said it before, right? These guys are awesome to race with. He loves the competition here. He is a driver that I think we can very much expect to see on the grid full time for Season 4 and potentially beyond, along with some of the other series veterans now, like Marasco, like Dees, Gibson, and more. So Jaden Hopp, even at the Superspeedway, is still showing he's one of the best when it comes to Mud Night racing.
Well, here are working now at the beginning of our 5th lap. Now, something to keep in mind here, especially up top with Dees and Marasco. That's an interesting helmet. That was a SpongeBob helmet on that driver. I don't know who that driver was. I didn't see who the in-car camera belonged to. Who was that? That's Connor Gibson. That's a nightmare fuel right there, what that is in that moment.
I've seen worse. It's not the worst helmet I've seen in the world.
No, it's not the worst, but that caught you off guard a little bit, didn't it? What I was going to say, that the challenge now we're facing up front, by the way, for Dees and for Marasco. These cars have a limit on how hard you can push, right? You have engine temps in these cars. You have a limit where this car will blow up on you. And the longer you're up under someone's bumper, consistently pushing, you're pushing those temperature gauges further and further up. So about the time that Brian Dees always gets Marasco to the front, I think he has to back out for the temperatures and try to reset.
You can hear him kind of feathering the throttle mid-corner as well. Really trying to play it safe right now. Even when he could have given him a shove down the straightaway, he still is lifting out just a bit more. Really trying to play the throttle again. There you see him duck out to the right inside, like you mentioned, trying to get some air into that radiator on the right front. And oh boy, came down a little bit and nearly got to Jaden Hopp down to the low side of the racetrack. Ty Marasco, I think thought about jumping down, but he just didn't have the gap to make that work, and that's going to really disorganize that top line.
Yeah, it's going to kill him a little bit. The top lane probably would have preferred that Marasco stay down there and let them catch up to him, because that'll cause some people to check up and some different problems to happen on that top lane here. But Dees will do his best to push Marasco back around. And boy, what a benefit that is to have a teammate right behind you who's willing to stick with you and push and go in this moment. Now, Nolan, other than remember, we'll talk about as this night goes on, these Xfinity cars, they don't perfectly line up in the push. When you and I cover truck races, you can push a truck around this track. You can almost push, well, I guess we're not calling the next gen or the Gen 7 cars, the Cup cars around this track. These cars are not flat bumpers. You cannot just lay on someone and push and push and push. You run the risk of spinning someone out. So your pushes and your bumps here have to be very calculated.
They really do, and you can see the effect on what a calculated bump looks like and what one doesn't look like, right? A calculated bump will almost always get you towards the front of the field no matter what line you're on. Miscalculated bump? Well, let's just say you're not going to be on the racetrack for much longer than that. You're going to have a torn-up race car, if not a few of them, in a situation like that. I mean, it can go wrong really quickly, and we've seen that time after time again. Now, you want to know what car that was a real struggle to bump trap. Hello. We'll get back to that in a minute. Connor Gibson jumping up high and trying to block an incoming run from Ethan Sikorsky. Pink tried to go with Sikorsky to make it 3 wide, and Pink's going to cut back to the middle and leave Gibson and Sikorsky out to dry.
Now, the problem with that top lane is it's not that it doesn't work. It's that right there, what you just saw, that's why it doesn't work, is because drivers don't often have the patience to make it work, right? You saw everyone kind of duck down and leave Connor Gibson out to dry here in this moment. But had, I think, both those cars stuck with Connor Gibson and give it maybe half a lap for that lane to wind up, they would have been surprised at how well they did. But getting drivers sometimes in Irish to be patient and wait for something to happen is like herding cats. It's impossible.
Well, and I'd like to flash back to the Magic Mile 1 week ago in Loudon, right? I mean, we talked about it before. Gibbs was showing an uncharacteristic amount of aggression in that race, and we were talking about he wasn't going to make too many friends, and that would hurt him come Talladega, right? Because nobody would want to work with him. We're already seeing that in play. Look, nobody is going up to help that 31 car, and I think critically the reason why Dustin and Sikorsky both decided not to help him, they had a run going. He came up at the last second of blocking and nearly took out all three of them.
Well, and right now what happens is when you start to fall back, it's very hard to sell anyone moving up with you because that lane's moving backwards. Right? It's hard to sell that idea. Hey, come up here and help me. But I know we're falling backwards, but help me. That's a hard sell to have for anybody in this moment. But you know, an analogy that I heard in the past week from fellow green flag commentator Corey Ensing, he and I were talking last week about super speedways, and he told me, hey, listen, the first 75% of this race is basically like a big behavior analytics test. And what he means by that is the way you behave right now on lap 10, the way you behave on lap 20, lap 50, even lap 60, everyone's taking notes. You know, did you bump someone cleanly? Did you leave someone out to dry in a drafting lap? Did you block someone to run? Did you do this? Did you do that? And then when it comes time to say, hey, I need someone to push for the win, or I want to follow someone for the win, you go, you know, that guy wasn't real nice to me earlier. That guy left me up to dry. I don't trust him again. And that's when those results come into play is the end of this race.
It's all about the mind games, and a lot of those mind games already coming into play big time here in this one. Already, by the way, 10% of the way through this race, 10 down, 90 to go, just like it was nothing. We are making good time this afternoon. Early on. There was one point I was going to get on earlier, and then we saw Gibson throw it 3 wide, and I, for the life of me, cannot bring it back into my head.
Well, it's time to go. You'll have plenty of time to get there and make it happen. We'll get there eventually. Right now, I mean, the one thing that stuck out to me, you said last time over here, I think you said like 35, 36 lead changes. Well, for now, it's only been 2 different leaders, which is Marasco and Hop, and they've been kind of swapping back and forth at the line. But that's because drivers are being patient. Listen, we do have 100 laps. We have, I mean, now, you know, 88 to go. There's no need to be super aggressive right now. I mean, you might want to make your way through the field, or you might want to make some moves, but you can be patient here. So I'm of the ilk and of the mindset, I don't need to be up front for all 100 laps. As long as I'm up there in the last 10 and I'm battling for the lead with 3 to go, I'm happy as a clam on super speedway racing. I'm not one of those drivers. I don't feel the need to be up there engaged, involved every hour. But by the way, you see that roads are hard, that yellow and red car, Bob Bear, look right behind you. That's Dalton Kilroe, by the way, Nolan. He started last, did not make qualifying, already up to P15 in that middle lane there. And if Dalton Kilroe has the chance maybe to move up here and help the top lane, but he seems committed to the middle for right now.
I'm really glad that you brought up lead changes, because that brought the point I wanted to make earlier right back into my head. We've been talking a lot about bumping tonight, and I mean how effective it is. That's part of why we got so many lead changes the last time we were out here, right? We were the Gen 4 cars, and you can't bump draft in those cars. The nose is not a bumper, it's a scoop effectively, and some drivers did try. One of those drivers, in fact, that was a victim of an attempt was actually Scott Shire. And in that race, Scott Shire actually found himself being flung into the air in turn 3, nearly vaulted into the parking lot on the exit of turn 4 as a result. He was up, not so much air, he was above the fence line. That's it, but it shows, though, just how wrong things can go in these races when you're not prepared, when you have those bumps early on. One thing I am noticing, look at how much separation there is right now between 21st and 20th.
Well, not just that. Look at that separation in the back for Scott Shire. Come out the back with his Larry Bell and that purple machine in the back. If Shire's not careful, he's going to lose that draft. The draft is easy to lose when you're the last car. And once you do, it's like having a parachute in the back of your car. So Shire's going to have to work really hard to get it back there. But look at this. That top lane's coming around. There's Connor Gibson pushing a car. And there may be only 3 cars back from the front here. If they get one more car to come up and help here, they'd be good. They might be good regardless, but one more car would definitely help them. They're up there.
Yeah, right now up to the top shelf, Carter Phillips and Connor Gibson trying to work together here. They are making some moves up on the high side, so BC Simsport is on the move along with the Canadian driver in the field. Ripping up high as Osipek tries to fight it out with Gibson, and Marasco's clear for the lead, by the way.
Yeah, he is clear for the lead. He's not going to leave his teammate Brian Dees. You've seen that already. Oh, there's a car up, moved up, that light baby blue car, the powder blue. Now there's another car that has Dustin Ping up there. So up, and then Gibson moves down. What? How? Like that? You were up top for 3 or 4 laps, and then just, I don't know. And again, that comes back to that topic. Listen, if I'm a driver, if I'm Dustin Ping, if I'm in that 30 car, and I see that Gibson just kind of left me behind, I'm gonna remember that stuff later, man. That stuff will drive you crazy. By the way, Marasco did finally move down. He did finally leave Brian Dees behind, and now Marasco leads this race by a full car length.
I think at some point you gotta try to make that move, right? I mean, you can't afford to just kind of hang around in the lead forever. I mean, teammates are teammates, but when you gotta go, you gotta go. And right now, we see Marasco tracking up with the lead, and now Brian Dees is to his outside. Now this is good because now Dees and Marasco can try to control the race with both lanes up top. And in fact, they're going to go for a position swap here as Dees is now taking over the lead, and now it's Marasco being the pusher.
And look at this, look how fast things change. Connor Gibson just dumped that high lane a lap and a half ago, and now here he is leading the top lane. He's got Travers pushing him around, and he's trying to keep up. And that bottom lane is so long. I mean, that thing gets tightened up, and we get rid of some of these gaps in this lane, like Williams in the car behind him, which I believe is Sikorsky and Ethan Sikorsky back there. That bottom lane could move right now, but those gaps in that lane are keeping Connor Gibson and the top lane relevant.
Dees and Marasco continue to make moves up front as they'll get linked up together. Your defending champion Dustin Ping now running back in 5th. He's going to be the main pusher for the outside lane. Pit stops, they're going to be coming on up here. I reckon in less than 15 laps or so here, we are not too far away from seeing our first green flag stops of the night, especially if this race just keeps flying by like it is now. Whoa, and Hopper, they're going to move up high.
Yeah, you're right. We're not too far from it. We're already 17 laps in. I suspect we can probably do, I'd say 30 to 35 on this fuel tank here and under a full fuel tank. So we'll wait and see how that works out. But man, Jaden Hopp did move up, as you said. He's now in front of Connor Gibson and is doing a pretty good job here. Now, the thing to talk about, and I think what's different, look how good of a pusher Connor Gibson is. We've seen this a couple times here. In super speed racing, no, there's a couple skills. There's like sub-skills of this type of racing. One of them is pushing, and one of them is being pushed, and not everyone is great at both, right? Some people are great at pushing. Some people are great at bump drafting and sort of helping someone around, but they're not great at taking the push. And other people, vice versa. Some people love to be shoved around the track, but maybe they're a little too nervous to get up on the bumper and make it happen. Well, I'm not sure how great Connor Gibson is at being pushed, but between the pushes he's given tonight, it's easy to see that Connor Gibson is good at pushing because he does push Jaden Hopp back to the lead.
Oh yeah, I mean, Brian Dees has always been known in this league as one of the guys that if you need a push, he is the man to give you that push. I mean, Brian Dees knows how to work these cars, and a serious battle started to form up now for the top 4 drivers here as you got Connor Gibson now trying to see if he can't go to the point, and in fact, Gibson now going to drop down across the nose of Jaden Hopp's machine here. So time continuing to track away here as Hopp, the next Sports driver, works at it with Connor Gibson up at the head of this field. And right now you've got Dustin Ping up on the high side, still trying to make moves forward. You got Brian Dees trying to get to the front. Looking like Dees might have jumped up to the high side, but I think still running behind Hopp here for 3rd. So outside lane starting to lose momentum, but Marasco might be trying to get back to the front.
And the longer this race goes and the more drivers that move the bottom, it's a little harder and harder to get people to stay up top because they kind of see that line forming. They get scared about falling back in the drafting lane. And so it's hard to get people to get motivated right now on lap 19, starting in lap 20 now, to get up there and race really hard. I mean, there'll be a few people who want to do it, but right now when they look at only one car, and I think that's the 30 car up there, if I can see that correctly. That would be Carter Phillips, who's up there. Yep. Now what he's trying to do there is he's trying to side draft only. He's trying to, and that side draft is super effective both in real life and in iRacing right now. We saw it a lot yesterday. in the Daytona 500 in real life, but you can really get up on someone's back quarter panel here, and the side draft doesn't make you go faster. It just makes them go so much slower. I mean, it does. It's like putting like a couple of bricks in the trunk. It just slows them down, and then it helps you kind of get in line. But here's the top lane forming. Now we got cars moving up top here, and we'll see if they can get a move going. That Dalton Kilrow in the back, he's inclined to get up there and help push and make his way to the front.
Look at how much this field is single file out as well. I mean, not a lot of drivers showing faith to any kind of outside line. And I think that's because we're getting set for pit stops here. They are not too far away, and I think a lot of these drivers recognize that. They know the pit stops aren't far away, and they're thinking, well, why risk getting caught on the outside line if we don't have a chance? And just wait and see what happens during the pit stop window. But Team MFRD doesn't subscribe to that thinking model. They're going to go up top and try to go for the lead.
Yeah, so remember, in high tide racing, the fuel tanks are limited to 70% gas. So that number I gave earlier, about 35-ish laps, that's on a full tank. So take 70% of that, and you're right, that means we're not maybe within 5 laps, I would say, of pitting, and that will be exciting to see. And that's the reason why you want to be on the bottom, because it's not impossible, but you would have to coordinate it to pit from the top. If you're going to pit from the top like Brian Dietz or Ty Marasco, you have to hope that Connor Gibson and Jaden Hopp and others are pitting from the bottom. Otherwise, you're just going to kind of run into them.
So Dees, Gibson, Marasco. Right now, some of the main contenders for the top spots. Jaden Hopp still in the mix as well from the pole sitter. How about that outside lane that was forming way at the back? We were talking about, yeah, they're trying to get formed up, but with the drive of Marasco, they've been able to close right back up, and now they're also in the mix. Dalton Kilrow right now, one of the big movers, now plus 15 on the afternoon.
Yeah, look at the names up top there. Dees, Marasco, Lacey, Kilrow. 4 of the top 5 up there. Those are big names in this league. Those are names that you trust to come around here and race with you. And not that you don't trust everyone here, but you know, there's a bunch of big names up in that line, and so that's why that line's moving. And they're committed to it. Look how they're committed. They're sticking to it. There's a little bit of a gap there. They got to close that gap up right behind Marasco if they want to make this work.
And now, Foster's not content with running second fiddle. He wants the lead, and he's going to pull your Season 1 champion of Benjamin Lacey to try to get up there with him. Lacey and Foster, 2 drivers that are no longer in the running for this championship, but still trying to go for some last-minute glory. As they're going to get to the outside now of Dalton Kilrow, trying to open up a 3rd lane, but still nobody, or at least not enough, going with it to make it work.
No, in fact, all that did was help Dees, Marasco, and Kilrow get closer to the front. And now they'll get a push from behind by those cars. So here we are now, side by side again, sort of Noah's Ark style 2x2, pretty well, at least 5 lanes back. And then the question would be one of those drivers in the back move, right? That's what makes me think we're getting closer and closer to pit stops, is how few cars are willing to move up. I suspect with the next 2 laps, we'll start to hear the pitting calls. We'll see people coming down and getting gas. And that's, I think, where the lead changes are going to happen. Let's see who knows how to get on pit road correctly. Let's see who gains time. Let's see who loses time coming to pit road.
Lap 25, at the end of this one, we're already going to be a quarter of the way through this race. I mean, we have
There's
been...
Marasco.
Yeah, Marasco jumps down low. Could make it Team MFRD 1, 2, 3 up here if Kilrow can get pushed up there by Kevin Foster. I would honestly not expect for Kilrow to hang loyal with Foster out there if he could get clear of his teammates. He's going to jump down and become the leader.
He's going to have to jump down. Again, we keep saying it. We're close to pit stops. You can't pit from there, and there he goes. And that's going to kill that run for Foster and just put it pretty far back. Well, wow. And you're right. We're cruising along in this race, and as long as we stay single file, we're likely to cruise along because, you know, in your single file racing, it's not impossible to wreck someone, but it's definitely harder to wreck someone than when you're 2 or 3 wide at Talladega. There it is. Now he's ducked in, and that is the whole file. We're on now one long choo-choo train here in Talladega, Alabama.
1 quarter distance through this race. Like I said, making good time this afternoon, and Well, if super speedway racing is your jam, as it is for so many people because of the extra close quarters race that could take place, well, we got you covered this week. Derek, you're going to be back in the broadcast booth with me on Sunday for the 5th annual Cyber 500. We're going to be having, we're going to be getting Corey into the broadcast booth tomorrow night for the Daytona Duels. And hey, even the Speed Cup Series is still not done at the Super Speedways. They're going to be out at Atlanta Motor Speedway on Thursday afternoon. So plenty of plate racing action coming your way this week.
Yeah, plenty of plate racing action. Listen, if you love it, on the official side of iRacing, Cup cars, Xfinity, and trucks are all at the new Atlanta Motor Speedway. So you can go drafting there and get that fix in if you need one. But right now, Nolan, this time by, we're hearing lots of radio chatter. This time by is when the pit stops will happen. Now, here's a skill. I say it all the time. Doesn't get practice enough in iRacing. Green flag pit stops at a super speedway. You can gain and lose a lot of time on these entries and exits. And also, there's that pesky thing called that speeding on pit road black flag that's likely to bite someone during this race.
Coming off of turn number 4, here comes the party. Pretty much everyone is coming in. Half the field is in. Marasco locking up big time into pit road. I think they got it slowed down, but that is 11th on down. Only the top 10 have stayed out.
Yeah, so far everyone's good. No black flags from race control. So you see there from the back view of the pace car. See the pace car driver's ready in case something happens, but no need for him. Comes a bunch of cars down pit road. Kevin Foster, by the way, is one that surprised me. He was in the middle of that peg. Was that Hop that we saw back it up a little bit, maybe?
Yeah, it was.
But it was. That would cost him some time here on pit road. He'll likely go from the front of this pack to the back of this pack here. But I was gonna say, Kevin Foster surprised me, by the way, Nolan, because he was the one that was in that PERD that did not pit this time by. We'll see if he comes this time here. He'll have Ben Lacey behind him. And yes, he is.
I'd be shocked if he didn't. And oh boy, Lacey in hot. Lacey's in real hot. That's way too hot. Maybe got it stopped. Carter Phillips did not go. Zimmerman's around and Phillips is around.
Wow, that's a big wreck on pit road. We'll see some cars are going to tow there. Dustin Ping, by the way, has a black flag. It's either going to be speeding, likely speeding. I didn't get a confirmation on what part of pit road.
Would have had to have been on exit because he's already out of pit road. He either got the speeding on exit or it's an unsafe pit release. And look at how much Dawson Guzik is having to back up here to find his pit stall. This is going to kill the 44s race unless he can get a caution quick.
Yeah, it's going to kill a lot of races here unless we get a caution quick. Still working on the Dustin Ping black flag. He's definitely not speeding on the way out of pit road, and I don't see the unsafe rejoin. So I'll see if I can confirm later what the black flag was for. Maybe speeding in. I haven't confirmed that yet, but we'll wait and see. But back on track here. Now you see this group. This is Marasco. That's Kilrow. That's Dees. That's Connor Gibson back in P4 where they were single file, but now, well, they're still going to be that way. I thought maybe Gibson and Dees were going to look high, but I think they've thought the best of it till they get by lap traffic. Now there's Lacey, by the way, and there's Kevin Foster. Remember, they pitted a lap later, so they're still getting up to speed. This is not lap traffic. This is just traffic on different pit cycles in this race. Oh, Hop got left outside there.
And then this was the crash coming down to pit road. Looking like Zimmerman may have just locked. No, Carter Phillips lost it and just ran into the back of Zimmerman. Lake did a great job avoiding that. Haggy had to scramble, and Larry Bell left with nowhere to go. Watch that 30 car. He's just going to lose the back end here, right? There, he got loose. Just careened sideways. You don't have to talk about good wreck avoidance when you're coming down to pit road, do you?
No, you really don't. It's not a thing you talk about too often. Watch it from this angle here, and we'll see what happens. Watch to the left side of this camera shot. That's the 22. Just gets bumped, and then on around they went, and David Lakey just went inside, said, I'll avoid that. Carter Phillips, by the way, has already called it a day based upon that incident. So Carter Phillips, your first entry out of this race, he will DNF here right around lap 26.
Awkward situation.
I'll be honest with you, Nolan. I think that's, I mean, with all due respect to Carter Phillips, I think that's more of a hurt pride than a hurt race car. I did not see anything that would indicate that he would not be able to continue the race, but he is definitely called it a night.
I agree. I think it's one of those cases, Ryan, where he was just not content necessarily with how that went down, and I think that would be understandable. He's not fighting for a championship, right? He's only kind of running part-time. Didn't see the need in staying out there any longer. I think kind of wanted to just kind of cut his losses, like you said, and kind of left it at that. But Max broke up the field a good bit here. We've got the top 18 still in this fight, but then you've got Jonathan Canfield, who's lost the field, Sikorsky, who's lost the field, Larry Bell, Brian Zimmerman have all lost the field, as well as Dawson Guzik. Now, here is a common denominator, though, for all these drivers that are this far back. They all took 4 tires. Everyone that's in the drafting pack up here only took 2.
Yeah, and tires are not super important at a track like this. So I understand the logic for sometimes would be, depending on how much gas, if these were full fuel tanks, the amount of time it takes you to fuel this car is what it takes you to put 4 tires on. But only having those 70% gas tanks, that's not the math equation. And I suspect maybe a couple people forgot to acquaint for that, honestly. But those drivers in the back, what they now need to do, and this sounds kind of opposite of what you would think, Nolan, they need to see how far apart they are, and they might want to back up and get together, because how fast they can go together in the draft is so much faster than how far they can go solo. That will affect if or when they get lapped by this field.
I missed the end of what you said. The cars kind of drowned you out a little bit there on the flyby.
I was just saying, those cars that are back, so Sikorsky and the others, there's a car up top. Some of these cars that are now kind of hanging out there by themselves in no man's land, they need to get backed up. They need to kind of find one another and go drafting. It sounds weird to say, hey, back up. That's what they did. It sounds weird to say, hey, hit the brakes and let me catch you. But they're going so much faster in that 3-car draft than any of them could go alone. They might still get lapped by the field, but at least they're going to delay this process, and hopefully, in their minds, a caution comes out before that happens. They're going to get more time before they get lapped by doing it this way.
I mean, you say that they're only running about 1 or 2 miles an hour slower than the leaders right now. So I think they can actually hang on until the next pit stop window of this one here at the very least. They are going significantly quicker than Canfield, of course, who's all by himself. So he's
going to be a high risk of getting lapped here not too long from now. Well, Canfield, I mean, he turned a 53.955 last time. Leader turned a 54.5, so 3.5 seconds difference per lap from the leader to Canfield, how fast they're going. So by Canfield not having a drafting partner, that's the difference. 3 seconds a lap. So they're going to swallow him up pretty quickly if a caution doesn't come out.
So working lap 35 of 100 so far, still caution-free this afternoon. I'm kind of glad we went caution-free. Well, you and I have caught a lot of caution-filled races the last few weeks. I think we've kind of needed these breaks to be able to kind of let things settle out. There you see Lakey jumping up high. We're going to go 3 wide for the lead. I think Lakey trying to get out of the lead, that looked like it was deliberate to me, right? I think he recognizes he doesn't want to be leading these races forever, because the last thing you want this race is to be a lap shorter on field than everybody else. And that's where we see the game start to come into play of when do you choose to tactically sacrifice that lead so you stay on pit cycle with the leading pack.
Well, there's more than that. That is a valid reason. Maybe you don't want to lead, maybe you don't want to burn up the gas, but maybe also you weren't happy with who was behind you. Maybe you weren't happy with your pusher. Maybe you thought your pusher was being aggressive, or you don't trust him, or what have you, and you decided, hey, listen, I have 2 choices. I can sit up here and maybe get turned around by the push and end up a wrecked race car, or I can back out of the lane and fall back and hopefully not have that happen to me. So I think Lakey decided that that was a better option. But man, look at that push he has given to Haig here. I mean, that is 1, 2, 3 cars clear of Jaden Hopp. And they finally pull down here. That's now Haig, Lakey, and Greenwell to the front of this race. And Gibson, in fact, has gotten in the way now.
And single file all the way back to Marasco and Bob Berry that are right now going side by side, as well as they get down the straight through the tri-oval. On the lap 37 this afternoon. Not a lot of time coming on up. We talked a lot about, all the plate races that have been coming on up, right? I mean, it's a real big Superspeedway week. It has been the last 2 weeks, really, but we've got some other races still coming up to play as well. Of course, you got HTRL also on Sunday. That's going to be on Sunday evening, about 3-4 hours after the 5th annual Cyber 500. They've got 170 laps around the Charlotte Motor Speedway, or 2 hours, whichever comes first. 150 lap race around the Texas Motor Speedway. So, I mean, holy crap! It's an endurance week, pretty much, for the oval side of things, isn't it? Now, one race where it's not. Tell me this, and you tell me if this sounds awesome or not, right? We've got 40-plus cars, BMW M2 touring cars, that are about to attack Bristol Motor Speedway on Wednesday night.
That could go either way. That sounds interesting, doesn't it? I'll put interesting, because it could go either way. I've driven the Miatas around Bristol before, and that's a blast. So the M2s could be fun. We'll wait and see how that plays out as part of the beer league that happens on Wednesdays here on Green Flag TV. But right now here is Bob Berry. He's trying to lead this group around, and there's just a bit of a gap here between himself and the cars behind him. He needs to get that gap closed up right now if he wants to have any help. Now he's got Brian Dees behind him. And Dees did a great job pushing earlier. So if Dees can get to Bob Berry, they can be relevant. They just need maybe one more car. Would it be a Gibson, a Hop, a Marasco? Maybe Marasco wants to hop up there and help his teammate Brian Dees. They're not that far back. Look at that Bob Berry up 19 spots since the start of this race. This is why we love Talladega. It's the equalizer, right? It's parity. The draft creates parity in these cars and really gives everyone a shot at winning, and that's why we love to watch it.
Bob Berry was one of really one of the 11 cars that did not put down a qualifying time this afternoon. A whole bunch of drivers that wanted to start at the tail end of the field. Hence why we see him with that huge charge back to the field. Brian Dees right behind him is trying to help him up to the front. We talked a lot about Dalton Kilroe earlier on in his runs. He is still running back to the 10th place spot. But how about this? Bob Berry getting set to lead Talladega for the first time tonight.
In fact, he is going to lead right there at the line. That'll be his official lap lead. So now, earlier in the race, it was only 2 leaders. It was just Hop and Marasco, but now the names are starting to fly around. We've seen Haig, Berry, Dees, and others. Go ahead.
Some big news, actually. That is Bob Berry's first lap lead ever in the High Tide Racing MFRD Premier Series.
Well, good job getting there, Bob. We've had a good run this season, some highs and some lows, and this will definitely be a high. Now they're 3-1, and Bob Berry, this is the problem that maybe Bob, not having the experience of leading, doesn't know. You can't meander that decision, Nolan. Whatever decision you make at a super speed, I don't care if it's Daytona, if it's Dega, if it's Atlanta, you need to snap a decision in there. If you meander that lane change like he just did, you could get yourself turned around here because you just get stuck. So like we saw in the Red Light 500 yesterday.
3x3, Marasco and Kilroe up on the top side. It was Lake and Dees in the middle. But Lake is going to jump down low, and then you're going to have Haggy and Berry down on the low side of things. Santa Mar has jumped up to the high side of the racetrack. The Five Kings Motorsports driver finds himself now running up on the top shelf with the number 23 Toyota Supra. And that's going to quickly get back to double. So we're now 40 laps in. 2/5 of the way through, and still caution-free.
Yeah, still caution-free. And you see those teammates, by the way, back up top, Dees and Marasco. They've been linked together most of the night, and here they are again. Marasco trying to push Dees. Remember, this is important because at the start of the night, Marasco was in, Dees looking for a way in to the Final Four. So in a way, it's almost more important that Dees has a better finish and see if they can get both their teammates in.
Right on board with Dalton Kilroe right now in his number 41 out of Morgan Beach, Florida. Kilroe, we talked about him earlier. He was a big question mark whether he'd be making the race tonight. In fact, he was running a qualifying / approval race to see if he could qualify to run in the duels with the Cyber 500 coming on up this Tuesday.
That's too much wiggling. Sorry to cut you off there, but that was a lot of wiggling down in the bottom lane. When Dees and Marasco went down, that could create some real problems. But you're right, Kilroe was out there qualifying to run the duels for the Cyber 500. That'll be here live on Green Flag TV this week. So Excited to see that Dalton still made the race. He was really concerned last week about the timing of both events and if he was going to make it. And had he not make it, Nolan, that would have thrown a major monkey wrench into the point system. But now he's here. Now he's almost leading. So now if you're someone like a Scott Shire who was on the outside looking in, Brian Dees was on the outside looking in, this is not good news. However, their guys don't really need to worry about that, right? They need to worry about P4, not P1. But here comes P1 in points, about to take P1 in the race.
Kilroe had said, we were actually talking to him last week, right, about what the logistics of this would look like, because he effectively made it clear, he, no matter what, there was going to be a time conflict, even if that race ran caution-free the whole way. And I think he was weighing, what do I want to run more? Because he runs the Cyber Thunder Racing League on the regular on Sunday nights as well, but, the Cyber 500 is such a big race of that league. It was the question of, do I want to preserve my championship lead and my position into the Final Four, or do I want to go and try to qualify into the Daytona Duels? Because the way the points shake up, if he didn't show up tonight, he would be in a dangerous position of being knocked out. He would be in the bottom four. He would be on the back foot coming into the next week at Phoenix. And when he got to that point, I think he made the decision, right? Go for the championship. One event, there's going to be one of those every year. However, you might only have this one chance to go for a title. And right now, he's in the best position he has been in his entire career.
Yeah, he's doing a great job here. And as said, I mean, he came in tonight pretty far ahead of the cut line, 27 points to the good. So he likely would have been at least in contention next week at Phoenix. But we'll wait and see how he did in this moment. Well, I think Nolan are going to take a moment. We're going to lay back and let you enjoy the sights and sounds of Talladega as we're going to rev it up and let you enjoy some of the adrenaline and the engine sounds from Talladega.
approaching the halfway point in round number 20 of the High Tide Racing MF Racing Designs Premier Series. And with still a long way to go in this one, let's take ourselves a quick rundown of what the field is looking like here this afternoon, just shy of pit stops. Right now, leading the way is going to be one Dalton Kilrow ahead of the field. He is being pushed, though, by Ty Marasco. Tanamar Benjamin Lacey runs second and third. From there, Kevin Foster and Brian D sit on the third row of the race with Bob Berry single file behind them. He is back in seventh with Eddie Hagee, David Linke, and Jason Greenwell to close out the top 10.
Moving back here, Connor Gibson, P11, and Jaden Hopp, Sean Williams, Austin McGill, and Paul Sathmere round out your top 15. Then it's Nick Ozapek, Scott Shire, Michael Keithley, Ethan Sikorsky, and Jonathan Canfield in your top 20. And then it's Dawson Guzik, Larry Bell, Brian Zimmerman, Dustin Ping, your top 24. All cars still in the race. And then Carter Phillips, P25, out of this race. That's a look top to bottom at your midway race break here for the High Tide Racing League.
51 laps in the books, and 50 laps in the books, and 50 laps to go here in this one. Racing actually been good so far today, right? Minimal dramas, minimal incidents. We were talking about how much this league needed like a drama-free week, especially since we both know how Phoenix is going to go down.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting to see how people race there, especially when there's a potential playoff spot on the line for a couple drivers. We'll see how that pans out and who needs to be aggressive. And there's some drivers in this race maybe needed a good, solid, quiet week after some repeat cautions last week. I know a lot of talks were had, amongst the admin group about how to handle some of those incidents and what to say and what to do. So a good, quiet week. But I hate to be that guy, Nolan. This is a quiet race because we're all prepping. We're halfway. I don't think the second half is going to be as quiet as the first half.
It usually isn't, right? And again, it's only going to take one yellow flag to bunch everybody up, and then it's going to be a real free-for-all at that point in time. But less than 5 laps away from pit stops, is Marasco going to jump back down in front of his MFRD teammate. Benjamin Lacey trying to make moves up on the high side. For Lacey, it's got to be frustrating, right? I mean, he's been running so good all day today, and he's probably thinking, why can't I have been running this good in the round of 12?
Yeah, but right now, if you're Benjamin Lacey, this right here, this is a morale boost, and this is your own personal stamp of approval. If you can pull off a win or a great finish here today, say, hey, listen, I still got it. I'm still there. I can do this. This is the kind of races where you come out and you perform well and you feel good afterwards. Saw Brian Dees temporarily move up there, and he's right behind Kevin Foster. And I don't think this is as much right now. Yeah, so they made room for Ben Lacey. This isn't so much about dumping anyone up top. This is getting ready for pit stops, which I think happened probably this time or next time by. No calls of pitting yet, so probably not this time. So we look back to the field. Yeah, no takers. So I suspect next time by, maybe as much as 2 from what we're hearing from Jonathan Canfield. So everyone seems to be in the inside lane to keep moving here. But notice how, see those gaps in the lane? Look back there between Lacey and Foster, and then Foster to Berry. Those gaps, I don't think, Nolan, those are not like someone not trying hard enough. That people may be laying 90% on the throttle to save an oomph more gas in these cars. I think those gaps will disappear when people determine it's go time. But for right now, you can lay on this pedal about 90% in the draft and keep in the draft, but still fuel safe.
Well, one other time where we're going to be seeing those gaps coming about is going to be, I'm predicting in the final 10 laps, because that is when people are going to be laying back just a little bit more, and then they're going to mash pedal to the floor, trying to get a massive run going, and then blitz by the field up on the high side of the racetrack. I mean, how many times have we seen that taking place? Especially in Gen 7 machinery, it is extremely popular to pull that type of move, because it's one of the only ways you can try to make a move in those cars.
All right, well, last time by, we saw some calamity on pit road. We saw Carter Phillips make contact with another car. We saw a black flag for Dustin Pink, so a little bit of excitement. This time by, we've heard Marasco, Kilrow, and others are coming in. Oh, Marasco, you got to stay on the bottom. You can't creep up like that. You'll get turned around. So this time by, let's see what happens. Any excitements, any fireworks, or does all go as planned for our second round of pit stops on the afternoon?
Already got a few tankers in a pit road. Sikorsky, Ping, and Canfield in with no dramas. And now here come the front runners, all making their way down into the pit road. Pretty much everybody that we saw coming in the last time by. Big lockups there for Connor Gibson. Oh boy, I think Marasco might be in trouble there with that one. Oh, what is going on with the number 1 car? Kind of all over the place there. He's going to lose about 5-6 spots. That is a weird extra for the number 1.
Yeah, I think he got on the brakes a little too hard. He did get it checked down on the speed, no speeding penalty, but I think he probably got it slowed up a little too hard, and then they're going to get past here on pit road. Now we know the call is 2 tires, by the way. Remember, Sikorsky, Canfield, and others who took 4 tires last time, they went pretty far down the field. So everyone this time should be a 2-tire stop here. They should have learned that the 4-tire doesn't work.
Full field making their way out of pit road, same story. In fact, there was one driver that did take 4. It was Dalton Kilrow, but because he was at the head of the field, he was thankfully able to get out before he lost too much ground. And now, oh, hello, the other guys are going to be broken up a bit here. You got a lot of cars coming in, but 3 stayed out. That is Lakey, Greenwell, and Hackett going another one.
Yeah, there you go. So more cars coming down here together. See the 9's now on pit road, and we'll see who can make progress. Scott Shire in the 4. He's trying to fight for a playoff spot, so this will complete that cycle. So if we do 27 laps a piece, that means we would pit again on about 84. That will not be a full pit stop, so the one more stop everyone under green should finish this race.
David Lakey now leads the way from Jason.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Connor Gibson, black flag this time by Connor Gibson, black flag.
Ooh.
I'm confirming, I think he unsafe pit entry, but I'm trying to confirm. Give me a second. I'll watch the replay here and we'll see what happens.
I was going to say, I don't think an unsafe pit entry would be it. It would have just penalized him immediately in that case, I would imagine.
Yeah, you're right. Let me keep looking through here.
Tanner Martin, in the meantime, the net race leader, he's going to get out in front of Sean Williams, pushed by Lacey, Kilrow, and Marasco. No problems with cars blending up into traffic, so we're going to be able to get things relatively sorted. Sean Williams, though, and Nick Ospec, in a dangerous position here, potentially losing the leading pack. Same with Brian Dees. They can't get single file out in a hurry. Sean Williams and Austin McGill are also in a critical position. Here comes Gibson back down the pit road.
Correcting here, Connor Gibson down pit road. I believe he flirted with the merge line off of pit exits and got busted for it. And I'll tell you, if that's what he got caught for, Nolan, it's tough. Like that's a tight officiating call. That's what we'd call like really tight pass interference in NFL. Watch it here. He's going to come off here, and it's going to be right about the middle of 1 and 2. So he'll come off here, getting it up to speed. For this angle, I mean, it's going to be hard to tell, but it's going to be right about. He's going to drift up in a moment. Maybe right about there.
Yeah.
That's darn close. Like if that's what they busted him for, and that's the only thing I can find in this whole pit stop process. That's some tight officiating here by the Irish and stewards.
Well, I mean, the rule is clear. You got to keep all 4 wheels under the yellow line, and while yes, he didn't go fully over the line onto the racetrack, there were 2 tires that were up on the banking. Yeah. Sometimes it is what it is.
Seeing how close he was, if you ever been in a car ride with a sibling, the whole "I'm not touching you," that's kind of how close he felt to the line right there, he's touching me, I'm not touching you. Anyone who has a sibling knows exactly how you play that game.
Kind of reminds me of Connor Jones, right? And because he got disqualified twice during the World Series of Asphalt just this past week at New Smyrna Speedway over in the real world. In both cases, right? I think it was a carburetor infraction, but it was one of those cases, right, where it was, I think, only like something about 0.02 over the regulations. And while, yes, that's a minuscule amount, did it probably help him? Probably not, no, but the rule's the rule. It's a fine line. I mean, you can't do this, and, well, you did that. Doesn't matter how inconsequential it is. It's still a rule violation, and it's clear.
So speaking of fine lines, that was a fine line time Marasco took there. He used the draft in the outside lane and quickly pulled down in front of teammate Dalton Kilrow, and now they're moving around. That's not Kilrow. I apologize. That's the 23. The black, white, and red got me from the front. That is the 23. And, yeah, that's not the same car. That's Tanner Marr. but he quickly got around him. But now Time Rasco back to the top, being pushed by the 22 of Brian Zimmerman. And what I love about this racing, Nolan, is it gives some airtime and some TV time and camera time to cars that maybe don't always get up here. I don't know the last time we really got to talk about Brian Zimmerman or some of these cars have been up with Bob Berry and led a lap tonight. That's the fun of this race for a lot of drivers. Hold on, hear this.
And that could very well be the big one. Multiple cars going around up in turn number 1. A big crash up in turn number 1. Tanner Marr is involved. Wow. One of the heavy hitters. Keithley was one of the main drivers that got turned. So was Brian Zimmerman. Some of the drivers we were just talking about how we were having the chance to talk to them or talk about them. They weren't hoping to be talked about like this.
No, they certainly were not. And that shows you how quick a wreck happens. Here we were thinking we had some more time to bring up conversations and make a couple points. And next thing you know, we're under caution. Watch him here. We're 3 wide. That's, I believe, Ty Marasco up top. And he just got bumped. And then he went into the outside wall. And then people tried to move down to avoid him. And all hell broke loose.
Hard hit into the wall for Brian Zimmerman. Keith kind of rebounded off it. Credit to the field. That could have been a lot bigger than it was. That only ended up being about a 3-4 car incident.
Yeah, a lot of cars slow. Shire avoids that one. It's good. Today, see, there's Marasco up top. Keithley moves down. Hits the 22. Hits a lot of cars. Bob Berry. Nice parting of the seas for him. You saw him barely get by there. Scott Shire almost got hit by the 22. And he made it by. This is from Bob Berry's point of view. Watch it up top. Just kind of lifts a little bit. It's clear. It's clear. It's clear. Go!
And then further at the tail end, you also had Jaden Hopp having to go evasive as he nearly got collected in all of this. Look at Lakey slipped through there as well.
Yeah, and credit to Jaden Hopp here. What a skill that is. Not enough people employ. He quickly got that car checked down out of the way. And here's him right in the middle of the herd. That's a push to Michael Keithley from the car behind him, and then there he goes on through. That's David Lakey. But Lakey, when he pushed Michael Keithley, that wasn't egregious. That was just a checkup from right here. This is Brian Dean's getting pushed into the wall, or not D, sorry. This is going to be the car outside getting pushed into the wall. Here comes Marasco up. Big push incoming. Not square, and then it goes to hell from there.
And Keithley slid all the way to the inside of the racetrack, and what could have been the big one ends up only being a handful of cars. Multiple drivers now into pit road. First caution of the night at lap 62. Much better than what we did at Daytona at the start of the year. I know you weren't around for that race, but by this point, we had already had 3 big ones and 1 car that had flipped upside down. I think we ended up having about 4 or 5 total really huge crashes. The notable one of the night was Mike Massengill when he had gone tumbling side over side, end over end about 15 times unassisted in turn 4. Hope we don't get anything like that tonight, but that could have been the big one.
Yeah, and hopefully it is the big one, right? Hopefully, all things considered, that is the big one. Hopefully we're done after that and we can race this back out and have a good time and see who can win this very, very long. We called it an endurance race. It's 100 laps. This is over 260 miles at Talladega, so it's a very long race. Well, look at that. Bob Berry's going to come out in the lead. Dalton Kilroy's going to come out second. Benjamin Lacey comes out third. Now, from here on out, these guys really need to do the skill of either clutching or something under caution, because every iota of fuel will matter here. Now, at 27 laps, you're still about 10 laps short on fuel, but every iota of fuel you can save here under caution, Nolan, is a little bit that you don't need to take on that last pit stop, and that could easily be a 1/10, 2/10 of a second, and that determines how quickly you can get off the pit road. All right, well, let's recap your top 10 here. It's going to be Bob Berry, Dalton Kilroy, Ben Lacey, your top 3. Then Austin McGill's in P4 with Williams in P5. Nick Osipek back in P6 with Marasco, Shire, Lakey, and Paul Sathmere rounding out your top 10 here at Talladega. Well, boy, still a lot to talk about. Nolan is racing quickly, moving along here. Let's watch this again. This will be that wreck. Time Rasker moves up and just gets bumped, and it's just a difference in speed, right? He moves up, he's not at speed of the top lane, and then all Calamity breaks. There's that 22. That's got to be about a 720 he pulled there up on the racetrack, Nolan.
Yeah, went nose first into the outside wall. Mar went tail first into the outside wall. Pretty hefty damage on both of them. Zimmerman is back out on the racetrack, but very much nursing a wounded race car right now, and I would not expect for the 22 car to be competitive throughout the rest of the night. Michael Keithley, it looks like he has gotten away more or less unscathed. Same for Tandem Mar, looking like all the damage has been repaired on those two cars.
Yeah, but we should mention, I believe it happened before the wreck. I was trying to confirm this, but Larry Bell has called it a night, hasn't damaged that race car. Do not believe he was part of that big wreck. I think his damage came beforehand. I'm not sure exactly what happened to him, but Larry Bell has called it a night. So he is the second car out of this race.
Yeah, Larry Bell pitted on lap 50. He pitted on lap 54 and then again on 56. I'm willing to bet he probably got a penalty or something coming out of pit road and decided to just call up there.
Yeah, very well may have. So we'll try and see if we can figure that out later. But all right, well, here we are. Now if you're Bob Berry, if you're Dalton Kilroy, anyone in the field, now you have to kind of reset. Now we had our big exciting moment. You got to just kind of take a big deep breath in, you know, big breath out, and try and relax. Because one of two things are going to happen here. This sounds obvious to say it, but then we're going to calm this thing back down. We're going to go back racing, or everyone's going to let their nerves get to them. We're going to get excited because we're within 40 to go, and it's just going to get worse, right? So hopefully we can get this thing calmed down to make another good race out of this and only have the one. But this could be that tipping point where things just kind of, you know, hit a point where Calamity breaks loose up through lap 100.
Race car pulls down into pit road, this time by Bob Berry. Will be in control of the field as he'll lead the way towards the Geico restart zone, with Dalton Kilroy to his outside. Bob Berry has led his first laps of his high-tide race league career. Took him 24 starts to get to that point, but for the first time, he leads the field to green.
You can kind of tell that Bob Berry doesn't really lead that many restarts. He kind of made a classic Talladega mistake there, Nolan, which is he really got a big jump on the field. You don't want to do that here. He's watched the high lane now. They're going to draft, and they're just going to kind of swallow him up. It's going to be Dalton Kilroy on the outside. It's going to be other cars out there with him. They're just going to try to make the run on the outside. There's Ty Marasco, Brian Dees, the whole field's out there. They're going to try to quickly get here around Bob Berry and be the new race leader. In fact, this might be Dalton Kilroy's first time leading, if I recall correctly, if he gets down there.
And he's led one or two already, but usually not more than one lap at a time. So usually gets kind of caught on the outside line. But, you know, like you mentioned, I mean, it's one of those classic Superspeedway mistakes. And most of the time at most tracks, you see a lot of people trying to play games on the restarts, you know, change up when you jump on the loud pedal. Though Superspeedway racing like Daytona, Talladega, there really only is one option, right? Wait for the icy green flag. The one exception is if you've got like 3 or 4 teammates that are behind you in a line and you're in a voice channel together, then you can deliberately time your jump to go super early, hopefully leave the field of the dust behind you.
Yeah, in fact, I think it's acceptable. Maybe that, but I would say maybe if we're in green-white checker territory, if we're on our last green-white checker, I would jump it hoping that maybe, you know, the field wrecks behind me and I just claim the victory. But you're right, typically, that you don't want to do that. You want to get out here and just kind of stick with them, let them push him. He does have a good pusher behind him. He's got Ben Lacey behind him. Ben's going to try to keep him up front here. But look at this. Dalton Kilroy is sticking to the outside. Kilroy, McGill are committed out there. Sometimes a driver has a preferred lane at a super speedway, Nolan, and everyone has an opinion, right? It's like saying Pepsi or Coke or iPhone or Android or, you know, morning showers or night showers, whatever the kind of that, you know, boxers or briefs, whatever you got. Some drivers love the high lane. They think the car builds up more momentum. It's easier to get out there and push. It's, you know, less turning in the wheel. Some drivers would say, hey, I want the inside lane. This way, if calamity happens, I have a whole off track to maybe help me avoid a wreck. And some drivers prefer one or the other. Some will just kind of drive wherever the lane is faster. But right now, I think Dalton Kilroy prefers the outside.
I think that's a very safe bet, especially since it's been working so well for him all throughout this afternoon. Lacey looking low, thinking about 3 wide, no dice. One car that is going to commit to 3 wide, though. David Lanky up top. unfazed by dodging through the wreck earlier on lap 61. He is now shoved by Eddie Hankey up on the high side of 3 abreast. This is the excitement we were expecting to have happen. We got a yellow flag, right? Greenwell is up top. I think you got St. Mary up on the top side. Gibson is up top. A lot of drivers right now making moves up high.
Wow, David Lakey's going to blow right by the field. Now, see if he moves all the way to the bottom or if he moves middle lane or what he does here. He's clear for the moment. I don't know if he has a spotter telling him that or if he's relying on the Iverson spotter, but he had a clear moment. Now he's not.
Trouble!
Hold on, wreck.
Hard into the wall, up into the air for Dawson Guzik. And Gibson has just collected Ty Marasco up front.
Well, and Gibson got collected first. He got slammed in the outside wall. Boy, oh boy.
Caution number 2 did not take long for it to slow back down, and I think this might be a rhythm we can expect to see throughout the rest of the night.
Yeah, because right now you've got to start making moves. You can't hang back anymore. You can't, wait. You can't bide time. We're going to be within that window. Let's watch it again. Locks up top. It's going to be up top here. That purple and blue car. It's got Connor Gibson behind him. Let's see what happens to him here. Looks all clear. A little bit of checkup in front of him. And the checkup just goes backwards. Oh, there it is. Actually, it's Ping in the back of Gibson. And then Gibson into the back of Guzik. And it just kind of happens from there.
Hard hit for Sikorsky.
Now, here's the question that we don't quite get. This right here. I don't know. It looked like Gibson had a hold of the car and then didn't. Maybe it's... Who knows? It's hard to say at full speed what happens to your car in that moment, but I thought he had it saved. Watch it full speed here. So watch the checkup behind. And then, yep, see Connor Gibson gets bumped from behind. Gets hit really hard. You know what? At full speed, you can kind of see it easier. He didn't really ever have control of that car in that moment.
On board with Gibson here. There's one hit, and there's the big one, and then... Yeah, I think he had a broken wheel. So on board with the 44 Chip Dawson Guzik here. Hit from behind, Lacey involved, and man, picked up into the air. Could have sent the car over.
And he just had no power. That car, just no power to control it. Just went to the inside and got to park there. Here's everyone down pit road. With these caution laps and knowing we're going 27 laps per run, this could be it. Like this could maybe lead us to a splash and go pit stop. Let's watch from a different angle here real quick. This will be Brian Dees in that Marvel Comics car. Like he just has no time. He barely touches Ty Marasco, tries to get checked up. You know what? All things considered, as he avoids Connor Gibson. I think maybe a slight bit of contact from the car coming down, but overall, I think Brian Dees is okay.
Again, another incident that could have been a lot worse than it was, puts under the caution flag for the second time tonight. So we've got 30 laps to go at the line. We'll have 29 to go. We get back to green flag racing. We'll be back in a moment on Green Flag TV. this isn't what some people expected to see when we returned to Green Flag TV. More pit stops under the second caution of the night, and well, Derek, you have some insights on this one.
Yeah, so people coming down here with 1 to go. I mean, if we're already talking about how tight you are in fuel, we ended right before that little break saying people would be maybe a splash and go. Well, why not come down one more time? That 1 lap of fuel you spent getting, around, let's fill it back up. Let's see how close but that tells me that drivers are nervous about how close we are in fuel, right? If you really need to come down at 1 to go and top this off, then you're nervous about how close you are. And what that tells me, we may not see a lot of battles to the lead. There may not be a lot of people who want to lead this race because right now, by default, if we were green flag racing, Dalton Kilrow would be burning the most fuel because he's the car out front. He has no one to draft, no one to kind of help, pull him along. So that's interesting to me that people want to come down. I'm not surprised with only 27 laps per run. I like it. But here's the thing that's going to be interesting. Since everybody chopped off on fuel, Nolan, iRacing is going to put them all on the inside lane. I legitimately think Dustin Ping is the only car starting on the outside lane. He is a man with no country up there.
Again, you don't see this every day at a Superspeedway, do you?
Yep.
This is
no.
This looks like back in the day when NASCAR would put all the lap cars on the outside, right? And otherwise it'd just be single file.
On the inside.
Was it inside?
Yeah, lap cars inside, lead lap cars outside, because in theory it meant the lead lap cars could fight to the first quarter, maybe be lead lap, quote unquote. Gotcha. Boy, I'm glad we don't have those days anymore. But yeah, this is gonna be interesting. Green flags back in the air, and unless they find a way to let Dustin Ping in, he's going to go from second to about 22nd here real quick because he has no draft. He's going to have to try to side draft here, Nolan, and I don't think he's going to do it. He's going to hope somebody comes up and helps him. And there's somebody.
Brian Dees
there's
going
Bob
up.
Barry, Brian Dees.
Yeah, they're both going to jump up high. How about Dustin Ping up top? Now, as we get up to speed here, you're, of course, a 2-time Daytona 500 winner. You won a Daytona race. You sent me the results of that last week, thereabouts?
Last Thursday night, yeah. It was a great feeling to pull that off.
So talk to us a bit about how you win one of these races, because I don't have any Superspeedway wins under my belt, unless you count AI.
It's a weird mix, right? You got to know when to go. You got to know when to be patient. I'll be honest with you, at 29 to go, I don't think this is go time yet. I think I can still be someone back there in the middle of this field, whether it be maybe a Jonathan Canfield, a Foster, a Tanner Marr back in P10, and bide my time, especially if I have a fuel concern. You have to be aware of everything around you. But you need to find yourself a bit of calm right now. I know it's hard to say that when we're just 2 wide racing with 28 to go. But you need to find yourself an inner calm. If you let the stress get to you, if you let the nerves get to you, you're going to race that way, right? So, yeah. But I mean, right now, if you're Dustin Ping on the inside, if you're Dalton Kilrow on the outside, you're literally just holding your breath because one bad bump will take you from the front to the back in very little time. So a fun topic to really think about, though, Nolan, is how drivers keep themselves calm in these cars, right? Everyone has a different way of doing it. Some drivers, when you race, you want no noise, right? You don't want to be in a Discord call with your friends. You don't want to be in a TeamSpeak server. You don't want to hear all those voices. Some drivers yap the whole time they're driving. Personally, I don't understand that. I don't know how you yap the whole time and drive. I don't succeed at it. It doesn't do it for me. Other drivers will put earbuds in. Some have music playing in their ears. Some have, a TV show on a second monitor. I'm not that talented either. I don't know how you watch TV and I race. I can't do it. But I have soundtracks I listen to. I have some artists that'll keep me calm in this moment in the race. And about 10 to go, you yank those earbuds out and you decide it's go time.
Developing story, by the way, we may have just lost another driver. Bus Satberry has just gone 1 lap down, and that is because he has just suffered packet loss and dropped out coming off of turn number 4 on lap 72. That was 1 lap ago, so we're about to be down another one And that'll bring the total number of DNFs on the day to now 5. Satmary, Gibson, Guzik, Bell, and Phillips all out of the race. Out of the 20 that remain, all of them are on the lead lap.
You saw there that Dalton Kilrow got clear with Brian Deans able to clear Dustin Ping on the outside. There's a car well in the back. That's the 22. Pretty sure he's still a damaged race car. He's just kind of hoping to finish this race. Maybe some calamity happens. He picks a couple spots. But there's Jaden Hopp moving the outside. He's trying to help that top lane again. That's Bob Berry, who's having a career night in so many ways, Nolan. And Bob Berry wants to come out here and lead this race. And listen, if you're Bob Berry, your whole goal here is to win, right? You know you don't need to worry about the playoffs. You're out of the playoffs. None of that matters. I'm going to go out here and I want to win a race, is what Bob Berry is saying.
Hey, wouldn't that be something, right? First laps led, first restart led, potentially first race win on the afternoon. It would be his first top 5 in this race as well. So, I mean, even getting his first top 5 or first podium, that would be special in of itself. He's run a lot of races, right? He's run more than a lot of drivers in this league has. 23 starts. This is his 24th start of the season. Right now, rivaling drivers like Haggy and Satmary. He's got more than drivers like John Osborne. Of course, Osborne was a playoff driver. He's got more starts than him. So Bob Berry is definitely a guy that's been around the block a little bit with these guys. And he's obviously looking forward to the end of this race, especially if he can find a way to stay up front.
And high praise for Bob Berry. Earlier I made a comment that he needed to make a snap decision when changing lanes. Well, praise for Bob Berry. This time by when he had the 23 of Tanner Marr behind him, he quickly snapped that decision and both of them got down in front of Dalton Kilrow, and they're now leading this race. So great job by Bob Berry to be more decisive there and make that happen, because you and I both know, again, when you're not decisive in a lane change at a super speedway, you either get stuck in the middle or you kind of check up both lanes and it just doesn't go well for you.
Fuel-wise is looking funky in this one. We can go, what, about 27, 28 laps or so on the field. We went green, though, on lap 71. That is just outside of that range. I think if we get another caution, you clutch and coast, you're good to go the distance. That is guaranteed. Right now, though, I don't think we're 100% safe yet.
No, I agree. And if we get another caution, I think you just come down and top it off and get rid of those concerns out of your head. But you're right. Right now, it's going to be darn close. That's why those drivers came down at 1 to go, and they decided to move it. And obviously, right now, the driver at biggest risk is Bob Berry, because he has nowhere to draft. He's going to burn the most fuel of this group. So it's almost like he's guaranteed not to make it on the green if we stay here. But here comes an outside lane again, coming around here in this moment. So we'll see if they can get Jaden Hopp third in that lane. He's going to try to push him around. David Lakey's up in second in that group, trying to push him around. And the one thing I've noticed tonight, Nolan, David Lakey's connection has not been bad enough to maybe be asked to pull over or step out of the race. But if I was racing with Lakey, I would not want him in front or behind me, because every time that car blinks from an internet problem, it creates a small blip in that draft, right? Because all of a sudden there's no car behind you or in front of you to kind of help create that air packet. So every time he blinks, you see his lane just kind of falls back and that progression stops. That's because he's just killing that draft every time he has that internet problem.
You'll run the risk of continuing to potentially drop back more and more if this goes along. We were mentioning fuel a little while ago. We were saying if we get another caution, we're going to be good to go to the end. And I mean, let's be real. I think the likelihood that we do get another yellow is high. It is very high late in the game like this.
Yep, and that's simply because time is running out. You have to make a move. You can't sit back and wait anymore. You have to bump a little harder, push your teammate or your opponent or whoever up to the front or wherever you need to be. And the moves get more aggressive, the bumps get harder, the lane changes get faster, and so does the high-risk moves all throughout this race.
You know what they say? It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when for the big one. We've had 2 lucky breaks so far, but if you got the whole field packed up, 20 laps to go this time by, I mean, If ever there's a time for it, it's gonna be right about now in the late stages. Well, look out, Sikorsky! Way down the racetrack, and how did he hang on to it?
Wow, nice job by Sikorsky. And he's actually going to stay on the drafting lane, I'm pretty sure. So we'll keep an eye on that. But let's see what happens here first. This will be a replay. That's him on the outside. And that's sort of that powder blue or baby blue. Just tucked in there and just had nowhere to go between Keith Lee and Dustin Ping.
That'll be a penalty.
Now, the concern I have, I was going to bring it to the same thing. I'm just trying to check it here. No. There's no black flag listed for Ethan Sikorsky. And I don't know how, because I thought he touched that cone, which would be on the pit road, but nope, he got away with it.
I wonder if maybe it was clear, that or just wasn't enough. But yeah, I mean, that's just a case of trying to clear yourself. And Carlo,
I don't know how he got away with that. That's clearly inside that green cone, but congrats to him. But not on the save, first off, but also on avoiding that penalty. Well, here we are riding around on lap 82, Nolan, and right now 5 cars: Paul Sathmer, Carter Phillips, Connor Gibson, Larry Bell, and Dawson Guzik. The only 5 cars out of this race. Everyone else still, in some way or another, in contention to win here with 20 cars on the lead lap.
about to be 19 as well, as Brian Zimmerman is just coming off of turn number 4. Right now, he is puttering around at just 165 miles an hour at his peak, while the rest of the field is ripping up on him, going 180 plus. I do want to point out, that is significant. I think we are saving fuel in this pack right now, because, I mean, 180 miles an hour, they can go up to 200, and our top speed of the night, 204. I mean, you're saving fuel.
And the biggest way you can see it visually, if you want to see it that way without looking at speedometers, is look at these little gaps on the bottom lane. Look at those gaps in that bottom. That is because people are like 90%, maybe 85% throttle throughout this race as Jaden Hopp just pulled down there. If they were 100% throttle, they'd be up all over top of one another, but they're not. So that, to me, is an indication that no one here feels confident on the fuel numbers. And the person least confident right now has to be Dustin Ping, because with no one to help him outside, he has to make a decision to go full throttle or lay back. He's going to find a spot in line right there. I thought he was going to go further back and get in behind David Lakey, but he does not. And here's Bob Berry now. He is now outside. He's going to lead this field around, and they all just got around the 22.
And if you want to get an idea of how this looks like in terms of lap times, look at the ticker on the top. That is the laps they were running last time by at the line, right? Mid-52s. This is the best laps of the race. You're seeing times into the 49s. We're running 2 to 3 seconds a lap slower than what these cars would be doing at full chat.
Yeah, in fact, to give the reference, earlier I called out lap times for Jonathan Canfield, and when he was out of the draft, he was running like a 53.9, I think it was, or a 53.5. The leader last time by, Bob Berry, ran a 52.322. So they're almost running as a group what Jonathan Canfield could run alone. So you're right, that's a great evidence that we are saving fuel. We're not confident, but I still, saving fuel or not, Nolan, I applaud this idea of saving fuel. I don't think anyone's making it on fuel unless the yellow comes out. I think everyone's going to come down and splash and go it before this race is over.
Well, I'm thinking if that's a guarantee, just go full throttle then. There's no point in trying to save. I think they're saving because they think they have a chance still.
Well, they might think that, but I don't think they do. The reason why you still do this is, you know, just give an example that's probably an extreme. If I full throttle this, if I go out and I just lead the field, if I'm, you know, Bob Berry and Tanner Marr and I go full throttle, I might end up on pit road for half a second, maybe a second longer, because of how much more fuel I need than what Dalton Kilroe, Jaden Hopp, you know, Brian Dees and others may need. So the concern is you're trying to cut every iota of a second off of your last pit stop. That may be the race that matters when this is all said and done, because you don't want to have to put more fuel in the car than you need on your last pit stop.
You know, I've run my share of Superspeedway races, again, both against real opponents and against those. Oh, by the way, here's Michael Keithley, and Keithley is going for it. Right now, this is Keithley by himself, no help, and look at how much more speed he's got just because he's got his foot to the floor. But, yeah, kind of keeping your foot around the 90% throttle mark, that's a very tiring thing to do, right? I mean, that wears on your foot a lot. that's something that's going to up the fatigue level dramatically in this race.
Yeah, it takes a lot of discipline to do this. It takes a lot of discipline not to kind of slap that foot to the floor and go. Speaking of going, there's Michael Keithley outside. There's Jaden Hopp outside. They may be taking the strategy, oh my gosh, that you called about. And Michael Keithley, nope, he pulled back up. I thought for sure he was just gonna dump Jaden Hopp and kind of hang him out to dry. But
oh, look out, Marasco!
Caught inside, that's Marasco. So he emerges safely, he does, everyone moves up. But Marasco now would be, if not out of the draft, way to the back of the draft here.
What happened there?
I don't know what happened there, but wow, let's wait and see if we can find a replay of that and what happened. But yeah, that was a great save by Ty Marasco. That could end up very, very poorly multiple times. They're going to come out here. This is into 1 and 2. Let's try it again. This will be behind him. There's Ty Marasco. Is it a bad bump from Ping? This is going to be out of 3 and 4. So here we come down into the tri-oval. Ping moves up. There's Marasco on the bottom. Big run. Nope, nothing there.
Greenwell? Greenwell.
Yep. And I told you before, if you're in a bump, you have to do it right in the back of the bumper. He pushed him on that right side. That's the spot that's guaranteed. And right along here, this is going to get scary for Ty Marasco because you're not going to know what's coming.
Marasco put the clutch in. I don't think that's 100% on Greenwell.
It may not be, but regardless, you're right. He was in the clutch, and let me not acknowledge that because he was in the clutch. But still, if he would have bumped him square on, it may not happen. But you're right. That clutching by Marasco definitely caused it to happen because he would have backed up pretty quickly. And right now, Marasco is the only car on the outside. Jaden Hopp, by the way, while we were in replay, did get around Michael Keithley and now leads this pack. Watch it again here. Watch how quick he closes.
Okay. So credit to Greenwell. He was fully out of the throttle there. He was not expecting that in the slightest. And I think that's fair. Why would you ever put the clutch in at a plate track?
Yeah, well, you're fuel saving. I mean, I don't like it. I don't like it. I think it's the wrong way to do it, but you're fuel saving. So that's why you do it. I don't think it's the right thing to do. But funny enough, here he goes from fuel saving and clutching to the same car behind him that just got him turned loose into turn 1. And now they're going to fight for the lead with 12 to go.
Speed still running at about 180 here, down into the 170s now, 175. Some of the lowest green flag speeds that we have seen all night. And some of these guys over 20 miles an hour slower than their top speeds. Look at one car. That's Austin McGill that just hopped way to the outside. Thought for a moment he was going to go into the wall. And we're going to go up high and looking like McGill and Canfield, they want to go for the top spot.
Well, as this is picking up, as more moves are happening, as lane changes are happening, as passes are happening on the outside, one of two things have happened, Nolan. Either these cars have saved all they need to save, which I don't believe for the record, or people have figured out there's no amount of saving that's going to work, and so let's just go. Wow, look at that push on the outside. That's Austin McGill who got all the way out there.
Oh,
and that
my
is
God.
Behind him. But I think either people must have figured out either we can't save enough because there's too much movement happening here. There's too many passes happening here for people to still be in fuel saving mode. Oh, here we go. Pitting. There's Bob Berry. That's Dustin Ping. That's Ethan Sikorsky.
Bob's got to hope that everybody else has to come down too, or he's going to be kicking himself.
With 11 to go, there's no way. Like, yes, being out front will cause you to burn more fuel, but not 11 laps. Like, that's not the number, I don't think. Also, of note, they called that really late, Nolan. I don't like that as a driver. I would want to let people know in turn 3 and 4 I was pitting. They called that out of 4. That could have led to some real miscommunication. But here goes David Lakey, playoff driver trying to lock in a playoff spot. He's now out front, and he and Greenwell to the bottom to lead with less than 10 to go.
I always love fuel mileage races. I love the intensity about them and that constant, will they, won't they have enough fuel to make it to the end? I love that so much, but it is just amplified on a super speedway. We saw this during the Speed Cup Series race. particularly during the Eliminator, it was a 30-lap duel, and you had a game of musical chairs. Nobody wanted to leave the field. You get one guy lead the way. Eventually, they were going around 160 miles an hour around that track in Gen 7 cars. And even still, half the field ran out of fuel on the final lap. It's an insane thing to see on a plate track like this.
Yeah, that's becoming more and more the trend that people have now decided they can fuel save and do this idea of maybe 80-90% throttle and try and cut that pit stop off. And we'll see how it plays out as the night goes on. Here's David Lakey. Here's now leading Greenwell around.
Speed's on the rise, by the way. We're back up to 187.
Remember, Greenwell came in tonight 6th in points. He came in a few points. Came in, I think, 8 points off of Scott Shire for P5. Came in 10 points off of P4. That's Ty Marasco. So Leggy needs this win. He needs to get a win here to try to lock in some points and see if he can try to at least put himself in better contention for next week at Phoenix. But I'm telling you right now, with the way they're going, I just think everyone's giving up on fuel saving. If you have that big a lead, if you're Lakey, if you're Greenwell, if you're Haggy, either you have given up on that fuel saving or you have a lot of hubris to think you can pull this off. I don't know.
Lacey and Williams going to both jump up to the high side of the racetrack as we work off of turn number 4. No moves being made into pit road this time by 7 laps to go. Time still running out. Only 2 weeks of racing are left in the High Tide Racing League MFRD Premier Series. Those days will be coming on in at the Phoenix Raceway next week, and then Homestead Miami Speedway the week after to close things out. Lacey's got some drafting help from 3 lap cars up the road.
Yeah, let's see what he can make happen here and how far up he can catch. Doing a nice job closing some field here. And those aren't lap cars, those are the leaders, aren't they?
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. I did not realize how far out in front they had gotten here.
That's why I said they had hubris, because that big gap they were holding over Lacey and the rest of the field. You don't put that kind of gap on the field unless you feel confident or something. With 7 to go, almost 6 to go here. Now, Lacey got a humongous run. In fact, such a big run, Nolan, with so much speed that he had to pull outside. Had he just kept pulling up on those 3 at speed, he probably would have run them over, not because he was being aggressive, because the speed you pick up in the draft is so drastic that it's a speed difference to the cars you catch.
5.5 laps to go. Look at Tanner Marr and everybody behind it, how much they're starting to back up. You're still trying to see if they can go the distance. 7-car breaker for the top spot by now, 0.8 of a second. And these guys are still not quite at 190 miles an hour. They're getting close, but not quite at that mark just yet. I think we're going to get it, though, here on the front straightaway. Yeah, they're back at full chat now.
Maybe they have saved enough. I don't know. We're going to tell in about 5 laps, because we're 5 laps to go at the line. It's Lacey, Lakey, Greenwell, Williams, Haggy, Hop, and Keithley in some order, depending upon the second of where they sit in that line. And you see a big gap back to Tanner Marr, McGill, and others. So, well, Nolan, when it's all said and done, either Sikorsky and Bob Berry and others are going to look like geniuses because they figured it out, or they're going to be really in a weird spot. And the one in the weirdest spot will be Dustin Ping. He pitted with them. He's back in P17. He's the last of the playoff drivers. He came in tonight second, but he can easily find himself on the cut line if this plan doesn't work out.
Time is rapidly running out this afternoon. Time Marasco from behind going to jump to the high side of the second pack. 4 laps to go at Talladega. And with how hard everyone's starting to push and how much the battles are picking up, I have to think they've made enough fuel saving to go the distance here in this one.
Well, time will tell, and we'll see here, because David Lakey continues here to be pushed around by Greenwell and others. Here comes Ty Marasco, big run on the outside, being pushed. I believe it was by Brian Dees I saw behind him in that Marvel Comics machine. Look at the gap he's closing. He's either going to check it up or run someone over, and he gets to the inside of Michael Keithley. And now he ditches Dees and finds another teammate. I believe that's his teammate. We'll wait and confirm on the side numbers of the car, but I believe that's going to be Dalton Killer right behind him.
Yep, Kilrow right behind. They're going to run up to Andy Hankey here now to the start-finish line. 3 laps to go in Alabama. Lakey still leads the way. Jason Greenwell down the inside. Brian Zimmerman going to go down another lap. Stays well out of the way and lets the field have their fun as we hit the Alabama Gang super stretch.
Well, you're right. It does appear that everyone's getting more confident with their gas. The one I'll be the most concerned about is David Lakey because he's been the one leading, so he's burning more. But no indications in the radio of anything wrong. No one said otherwise. Look at Brian Dees trying to make that outside lane work. He's all alone now. And will Ty Marasco move up? Yes, he will. Look at that, teammates. Oh, there's Mike Keithley indecisive. He almost got involved in something he didn't want to be in. But look at that. That is teammate. That is 1, 2, 3 of those cars. That's Dees, Marasco, and Kilrow. And Keithley does cut him off that time.
Yeah, Keithley's getting desperate here. He needs to find a way to the front. He doesn't have any teammates up here. He's got to get someone working with him, and he's trying to force MFRD to push him up there. They're not willing to work with him, though.
Well, then when you make moves like that, you cut off a run. That's not the instinct to keep pushing him. That's the instinct to saying, oh my gosh, this guy's dangerous, what's he doing? But right now, with 2 to go, coming the white flag, you don't have a choice. You have to push. That's why Keithley does it, because he knows these guys don't have a choice. So now we got 3 lanes of racing. It's now Lakey and Lacey leading us to the white flag.
They are going to look like they're going to make it on fuel here into the trioval for the penultimate time. Lacey jumps down to the low side as Lakey backs out. And now it is it's Keithley, Williams, and Lacey, the 3 leaders. Greenwell goes around.
Oh, we're not going to yellow. We're going to keep it green regardless. But there goes our first car. That's Greenwell.
Oh,
that's a big wreck. That's Marasco. It's over. That's going to be Kilrow behind him, I'm guessing. But let's get back to the front here. Moves are happening. Keithley's taking the lead. We'll come back and we'll watch the replay of that when the race is over. Williams to the inside. Movements are happening. Jaden Hopp in the middle. Michael Keithley wants to claim the winner. Williams up to the inside. Let's see if he holds on to it. Hold on to it. He does.
And now Dees goes around.
Oh my gosh,
spinning, crashing. Turn 4 down the racetrack. Off of 4 now. Osapak trying to fire through for a win. Haggy up top. Osapak down low. Nick Osapak. Can he take his first win? He's going to do just that in the High Time Racing League.
Oh my goodness. Playoff implications. This is another car. It's Tanner Marr, I believe it is, to the inside wall. And luckily the race is over because his race is definitely over. Nolan, there is massive playoff points to discuss when we're done. But first off, congratulations to Nick Osapak on that win in that 9 car. Knowing where to be, knowing how to use the draft, knowing how to pass. Watch it again here on the replay.
This was the incident with Tanner Marr.
This is where it's all going to, this is at the end. Sorry, this is Tanner Marr. Just right there across the 16 of Canfield. And
then this was the finish with Osapak here.
Watch this. It moves to the inside. Has Lacey pushing.
Too little, too late for the number 7.
Yep.
What a wild scene this afternoon. And we're going to take a look at everything that happened on the final lap because there is a lot to unpack there. There's a lot of replays we're going to have to take a look at as well. But Nick Osapak, I believe, potentially out of fuel here. Going to make his way around the start-finish line.
In fact, I'm going to say right now, as we're watching through the burnouts, most of the wrecks you're going to see on the final lap, Nolan, of people getting punted out of the way. I'm going to just make the default assumption before we watch them, is going to be drivers out of fuel who sputtered the car and got, moved. So here's our first one here. This is from Greenwell, I believe.
And look at the save he makes here.
There's a checkup in front of him. I mean, he just checked up and he got punted from behind, so he's not out of gas. But then look at this up ahead. That's Ty Marasco, end over end over end over end. Boy, oh boy.
Yeah, it was a violent crash for Ty Marasco up in coming up into turn number 1 here. I think
they're all back together.
Just in the course of first one.
What happens up top? Oh, is it the 8?
Jeez.
Catching David Lakey? Is that Foster catching Lakey maybe? And then Marasco just had no idea. There's Dalton Kilrow involved. Marasco's involved. This is just the first wreck at the end of the lap, by the way. Or excuse me, at the final lap, pardon, at the end of the lap. This is the beginning of the final lap. Oh my gosh, Ty Marasco.
Stumbled end over end about 3.5 times.
Let's watch the middle lane. Something to do with Foster and Linky. It's hard to tell from the angle, but they got together and then up top they went. They took Marasco out. Dalton Kilrow gets hurt. Watch this. Watch the middle lane here. Let's see if we can find it. I think Foster moves around. It's hard to see again, but remember, this is the first wreck. There's still more for us to cover in this final lap. There's more to do. That's the silly part about this. And so here they go down the middle of the back straight. And at some point here, Sean Williams will get moved. The 89. He just gets bumped. I think he's out of gas, for the record. I do. The way he got bumped there, Nolan, I suspect he may have sputtered a car. And I don't know what happened with Brian Dees. He just got turned around.
Yeah, Dees got kind of sent for a ride there, and we'll get a better look at this one here. Let's actually, again, we'll kind of back this up. We'll look at the whole lap as a whole here. So there goes Greenwell. Here's Ty Marasco.
Foster got loose. He wiggled that car and then down into Lakey he went.
And up and over goes Marasco, slid all the way on his roof. Ended up not finishing the race because he never got flipped back over. Oh, he did get flipped back over on those wheels. He took a bit of a tumble there in the infield. And then Haggy takes out the second car of the final lap as he runs over Sean Williams. And then Brian Dees had McGill trying to go up the inside. Didn't work out. He gets turned up into the outside wall. Slides down the racetrack, no further problems. And then Osipek had his own struggles coming to the... Well, Osipek managed to get through, and then this was Tanner Marr trying to get around Austin McGill. And I think right there McGill runs out of fuel, and that checks Marr up into Canfield.
So then I'm kind of curious about if we can go back to the back straight. I'm curious if, from the engine sounds, if we can tell if Williams lifts or is out of gas, because I'm curious if he runs out of fuel or if he just gets maybe a little bit aggressive bump drop. Let's watch the tachometer, and I'll lay out and let's listen along. Oh, this is a bad bump. And that tachometer never moved off the 8, so not out of gas. That's just a bad bump. And I mean, saying bad is hard to say, Nolan, in his last lap, but you have to be aggressive, right?
Well, all of that is going to take us to the end of racing action this afternoon. What a wild way to end a wild night. It ended up only being a 2-caution race, though we did get one car eventually turned over on its roof at the end of this one. Osipek takes home the W this afternoon. Benjamin Lacey comes in on second. Then it's Haggy in third. We'll talk to all of them in just a moment. Then it's Jaden Hopp, Michael Keithley, Austin McGill, Tanner Marr, Jonathan Canfield, Sean Williams, and Jason Greenwell for the top 10.
By the way, of note before we get into P11, look at that. Sean Williams, the only car in yellow up in the top 10 at the end of this race. P11, Scott Shire. P12, Dalton Kilrow. Those are playoff drivers. Kevin Foster, Brian Dees, and David Lakey run at your top 15. Then Ping, Sikorsky, and Bob Berry, your last cars on the lead lap back through P18. Ty Marasco, 1 lap down, never finished. Brian Zimmerman, 5 laps down in P20. And then Sathmary, Gibson, Guzik, Bell, and Phillips never finished the race.
What a wild way to close things out this afternoon. I mean, hey, sometimes that's how it goes, right? That's super speedway racing for you. A wild showing at the end of the night, and we'll now get the chance to give a chit-chat here to all of the drivers that come home this afternoon with podium finishes, hopefully at least, as we'll try to bring up one Nick Osipek, the driver that comes home number 1 this afternoon. It is not just his first top 5, it is also his first podium and his first win in the High Tide Racing League. Nick, it's great to finally get the chance to talk to you on the podium this afternoon. Talk us through a wild final couple of laps.
I mean, I'm still processing. I don't know what the fuck happened. I mean, it's absolutely insane. Apologize to the 8. I don't know if I gave him a bad bump, but came down to it just being kind of checkers or wreckers. But I mean, it was fully intended just to push. Sean was up there, Jane were up there, Scott and Mike, we all worked together, worked great, coordinated pit stops and stuff like that. Everything, won accordingly. So, Really would have loved to get, Sean and one of the Chase guys a win, but hate to play spoiler, but, it's the way the cookie crumbles.
It's how the cookie crumbles indeed. And hey, first win of your High Tie Racer League career. Are we going to be seeing you back at all before the end of the season here?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been gone for the past month, had some stuff going on, left Iowa, moved back to LA, so this was the first race that I was able to get my rig set up and get everything back processed, and set up accordingly to where I can run, and I was glad to be able to make this race. I definitely missed it, and thanks to you guys for broadcasting it, and that was a hell of a race, and just still processing. Can't believe that happened.
And we appreciate you as well for taking the time to come on down and give us a chat here this afternoon. Nick, congratulations on taking your first win of your High Tie Racer League career. We'll see if it'll be the first of many.
We'll have to see. Depends on what the work schedule's got, but like I said, was definitely glad to make this race. Once again, shout out to Mike, Scott, Jaden, Sean. Guys are fucking great all race, so really appreciate them, and it's glad to be back in here.
As the Ghost Pack race winner this afternoon, and apologies for the colorful language on that one. Benjamin Lacey going to come home number 2. He is standing by with Derek Watson.
Well, Ben, our season 1 champion came so close to winning this race at Talladega. What a wild, chaotic, crazy, whatever word you want to use, pandemonium might come to mind, finish here at this race. So what's your perspective? From the time we took the white flag to the time we took the checker, what was in your mind?
Just getting to the final end there, that last lap, that's really what you want to push for, right? So, you notice the first, half of the race, 3/4 of the race, really, I was just kind of right in the back, making sure the car was going to stay clean, make sure I had good aero to push up to the front at the end when it mattered. And then we had that caution come out, and then we all came back down again, basically pitted twice to get the fuel topped off. At that point, it was like right on the bubble. I had like a lap and a half worth of fuel saved. So then it's just a matter of timing to get it to go. And I don't know if you guys caught that, but everybody was saving fuel hard. We were peaking out at like 180 on the backstretch there. So,
yeah, we saw it. In fact, I'll ask you just pretty bluntly now, the race is over. We were talking about it in the booth. How much fuel did you have left when you crossed the line?
0.5.
Yeah, that's what I thought, because we saw our winner couldn't do a burnout, and so I was pretty sure you guys were pretty close on this. But we saw at the end you tried to pull out and see if you could pass Osipek at the last second. Do you think maybe if you pulled out sooner was going to happen, or do you just think they just didn't have the momentum?
The momentum was there. I was actually kind of off throttle a little bit behind. I just didn't want to wreck him for a win by any means, and I just didn't have any room for anywhere to go. I wasn't going to go, the tires down below the double line to do that. So there just wasn't anywhere to go. And I was hoping, coming up out of 4, I saw Jaden up on the high side, and I was hoping maybe get to clear him and then use the draft from Eddie and then slingshot up and around on that. But the hole closed up on there, and then just couldn't make the move. So I said, okay, we'll just push Nick to the win, and if it opens up, we'll see what we can do. And the hole was there too late.
All right. Well, listen, Ben, it's been great watching all season. Congrats on the P2, and we'll see you next week at Phoenix.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
All right. That is Benjamin Lacey finishing in P2. And I think we get a chance to talk to a new driver up here in the booth. Noel. We're going to get Benjamin Lacey out of here, and we're going to bring in our 3rd place finisher, and Eddie Hagging. Eddie, the Maryland native comes home P3 tonight.
Yes, sir.
How crazy was that last lap?
I don't know. That race was that was frustrating. It was, the way the last caution fell, it was kind of just we're saving fuel the whole end of the race, which is frustrating. Like it's a fun strategy, but man, that just sucks. Like you want to race. And then, the 3 teammates, me, Jason, and David, were kind of in position, and then it went 3 wide, and I felt like we got kind of boxed in. I accidentally spun Jason on the last lap because he lifted. I wasn't ready, and then I got a good run and went to the bottom, tried to just hit Sean square as hard as I could. It's the last lap, and then he wrecked too. And so I'm coming off turn 4, and I felt bad, and I just kind of mentally self-destructed and let the 9 by. But congrats to him. It's a good win. I'm sure even if I blocked more, I think Lacey was going to push him anyway. But it was a fun little end there. I just wish you could push a little more with these cars and not wreck people.
Well, you've had a good run of super speedways this week. Pardon me. You finished third tonight. Finished top 10 in your Daytona 500 run in the past week or so. So, I get the feeling you enjoy this type of racing.
I love play racing. But I like. I mean, it's no fault of the race. It's just the way the fuel fell today. I like when you can mash the gas. I don't like to save fuel, but that's just how tonight fell. But it was still a really good finish, and there's still really good racing through part of the race.
All right, Eddie. Well, listen, good run tonight. Next week we go to Phoenix for a long race. What's your outlook for Phoenix?
Yeah, Phoenix is a tough one in the Xfinity car. I mean, you really have to save tire, and late in the run you have to be creative with the corner. There's three kind of unique corners, and well, I mean 4, but 3 kind of distinct turns that you have to learn how to save tire and how to arc the corner differently as the run goes on. So it'll be a great test and a great playoff race for sure.
All right, Eddie. Well, listen, great job tonight on the podium finish, and we'll see you next week.
Thank y'all. I appreciate it.
All right, that is our third place finisher there, Nolan, and that wraps up our podium interviews and what turned out to be a very wild, chaotic, and exciting finish here at Talladega.
Overall, though, a very good race. Definitely better than what we had at the Daytona International Speedway to start off the season, right? I mean, that race was just chaotic. There's no other way to put it, just pure chaos. And while that race was good, this one was a great playoff race. So you had a lot of dramas. And like you mentioned, the highest playoff driver that finished this race was 9th. Everybody else is in the bottom 15 cars. That's going to mean a lot of huge points shakeups coming into Avondale.
It's going to mean there's not going to be as big of a points gap as there could have been coming into our final race. There's going to be a lot of points battles on the line. Marasco down at the bottom of the field. Kilroe outside the top 10. Shire up in like the P8 or P9. It's going to be tight. I'm excited for this to see how this last race shapes up.
As am I. But before we get into all of that, we've still got more racing action to contend with here on Green Flag TV. When we return to racing action, it is going to be to the Cyber Thunder Racing League over on Tuesday nights. Twin 60-lap duels coming at you at 7:05 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be bringing you all the action as we set up for the Cyber 500. From there, the Beer League is at Bristol Motor Speedway for round number 6, while the Speed Cup Series swings down to Hampton, Georgia to go racing at Atlanta Motor Speedway. 150 laps will play a host to round number 7, the Midtex 150, coming at you for the SRA IL Truck Series over on Saturday night. And then it's a doubleheader on Sunday with the 5th annual Cyber 500 at noon Eastern Time, and then at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time later that same day. Scott Rankin and I are in the broadcast booth with you for the ASRL Xfinity Series and round 2 at Charlotte Motor Speedway. For now, if you want to find out more about who we are, what we can offer you, check us out today at www.greenflagtv.com. Want to find out more about who we are? Well, I just told you who we are. You can find out where we are. My name is Nolan Rambo alongside Derek Watson. We're going to get the heck out of here, catch our breath. Join us next week where we get set to see who makes it to the Final Four in Avondale.